Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the TraderMerlin Show. It is your Thursday afternoon edition. I hope you had a great day out there. And yeah, especially some of these silver moves. I saw someone says a great day to be short silver. If you were short silver, all-time high put in today on silver, by the way, just for reference. I'll get into all the markets. We'll talk about all that stuff here in a little bit. But I wanted to get to a question that came in a couple days ago. And it deals with, is crypto a scam? And I think I've addressed this partially, maybe fragmented on this program before. So I'm going to try to do my best to kind of lay out the groundwork of, is crypto a scam? So here's the question that came in, just so we understand what it's all about. Oh, there is crypto. I love the picture too. Kind of just Bitcoin illuminating this person. Says, is crypto a scam? For the podcasters, they can't see it. The question came in from Jay. Jay says, I know you're a strong believer in the crypto market, but I'm still not fully convinced that it's a practical investment in real, tangible assets. What gives you confidence that it holds genuine, long-term value beyond mere speculation? How can crypto be considered a realistic investment for stock traders who focus on fundamentals, given that it has no intrinsic value, no balance sheet, no earnings, and no real growth drivers other than speculation and hype? Well, there's a lot to unpack there. And I would say to the layman that looks at this, yeah, I think that those are some very valid points. And it's a question that a lot of people bring up as well. You know, how valid is this? Is it real? Is it a scam? So I'm going to, Chio, you ask me that every week on this program. How high will Bitcoin go in the 4-year cycle? I don't know. 4-year cycle is supposed to end in November. My guess is it will probably be 150, 160. Be my guess. But I don't think we'll hit 250. Not this time. So before I get into explaining and fragmenting down at least my perspective on it, of course, my perspective is my opinion. It isn't the absolute. It's not collegiate textbook material, but it does have a lot of experience behind it. First and foremost, I'll start with the question of, is it a scam? And I'm going to ask you guys to give me an answer here in just a minute. But before you start typing in a chat, is this a scam or not? Yes or no? I'm going to do a poll here in just a second. So first off, let's go out there and if I gave you a number and I said, if 99.9999% of something is a scam, what would you say? What would you say? Would you say, if I said something is 99.999% a scam, would you say that all of it's a scam then, right? Would you simply yes or no? I guess I could just do the poll there. And what do you guys say? I'm curious. I know we've got a little bit of a delay here. There's always that delay on the feed. But if 99.999% of something is a scam, 99.9999 of something is a scam, then I think you could probably all lump it into it's a scam, right? Even though you have a 0.0001% chance of something not being a scam, statistically, with those numbers, we could say it's a scam. So let's go and look at over here at CoinMarketCap real quick how many cryptocurrencies there are. You can see at the bottom left-hand corner where my cursor is, it says crypto is 22.47 million down there at the very bottom. I know it's tough to see. 22.47 million cryptocurrencies. Now, just to put that into perspective, understand that there are more cryptocurrencies than there are stocks, futures, forex, and options in every country of the world combined. Just to put it into perspective, that is so many more than the amount of options or futures or stocks in different countries. So what I did is I wanted to run the numbers. And the numbers show 22.47 million cryptocurrencies or tokens, right? Coins or tokens. And then I put on there, you've got scam project. Let's say it's 99.9999% of them are scams. Well, that means if we multiply that by 0.0001, we should get the ones that are legitimate. And based off the sheer sample size of 22.47 million, that gives us 2,247 cryptocurrencies that are legitimate. Now, to Jay's question, well, what do they do? Why is there legitimacy to it? They don't have earnings, they don't have balance sheets, they don't have any of that stuff. Well, I'll dive a little bit deeper. Let me start with just a basic explanation of what cryptocurrencies and digital assets are attempting to do. If you look at what Bitcoin, the white paper for Bitcoin in 2008 clearly outlined, it was our banking system is screwed up. Your money in your bank should not be frozen. Your money should not be censored. It's your money. Do with it what you want. So Bitcoin came to be. What Bitcoin represented was an alternative to the banking system, a way for you and I to send money back and forth to anyone in any part of the world at any time of the day without anyone interfering. I gotta say, I love that concept because when I think of the core liberties that I have as an American, that to me should be one of my fundamental freedoms. If it's mine, I should be able to do whatever I want with it. However, as I mentioned many times, when you keep your money in a bank, it's not yours. So little details there, little details. So we have a system that has flaws to it. That is centralized control. All of our banks, bar none, are controlled centrally, and those banks have the ability to freeze your money at any moment in time for any reason. So I'm going to go through a visual here. Some of you may have seen this one before, but I really like when I built this one because I think it speaks volumes about innovation. Just keep in mind we have an old, antiquated, archaic system of financial markets that benefits the financial firms that set up those markets and exchanges, that set up those savings accounts, that set up those loan products, that set up those insurance products, that set up the retirement accounts and annuities. All of that system is designed to benefit the people who created it. They get rich and they take a piece of your profit. Nobody can argue me on this. If you want to argue with me, please go ahead. I dare you. No one can refute that. When Wells Fargo issues you a loan, a mortgage for 30 years, and they charge you 6.5%, they're profiting on that. It's not to make your life better. It's to make money for the firm. Okay, so let's go back to an example of an archaic system that was primitive at the time. At the time it was actually advanced, but it became old and outdated. That's the horse. That's the horse. Okay, so if you were, this is 1885, by the way. In 1885, if you had a horse, you had the elite mode of transportation. You could pretty much go wherever you wanted, right? You just get on that horse and ride it around wherever you want. You can go up mountains, you can go up hills, you go wherever you want, valleys, you got it. You had the elite mode of transportation other than a train, but that's a different story. So when you had this horse, imagine this is 1885 and you roll into town, it's 1 year later. So you take Lightning, your horse here, and you saddle him up at the local store and go buy some supplies, and you see this thing sitting out front of the store across the street. And this is Carl Benz's first vehicle. This was patented in 1886, 1 year later than that picture was taken. So here we have a vehicle. Now, imagine you're on your horse and you just pulled up to the store, you tied up your horse and you look across the street. You're probably going to go, what in tarnations is that thing? How stupid is that? And you go talk to the guy and he's like, well, it's an automobile. You know, I can drive, I can go. It's like, I have a horse, dude. I can go up that mountain. You can't go up the mountain in that thing. Those tires aren't going to last 3 minutes on this road once you get outside of town. This thing is stupid. Remember, it wasn't the perfect vehicle when it came to be. It was a concept, an idea that revolutionized, at least in hindsight, revolutionized transportation. But at the beginning, this was silly. Because remember, the infrastructure for this vehicle was not there. There were no paved roads. There were no street lights. You know, there was nothing that would make it easy for this car to adapt or to grow and become adopted. Now, over the course of time, innovation started to happen. They made changes to this vehicle, right? They put windshields on it. They put all kinds of different tires with more sponginess. They put suspension on it. They put a flatbed so you could carry supplies around, and all of a sudden it started to have utility. But more importantly, it wasn't that the innovators took this initial concept by Carl Benz and said, let's make it better. They continued to improve and created new vehicles, and it always got better from an innovator's perspective. What's really important for me is society, the city, realized there's more of these cars. So that western town, when I rode in there a year later, they may have graded the street to make it easier for those cars to get around because there are more cars showing up. So we need to build infrastructure. So you have two things going on at the same time. You have an archaic system of horse and buggy that was fine, but now this represented potentially something better, something that may have made this more accessible to the masses. And the visionaries not only saw profit potential in the vehicle itself and creating different cars or trucks, but also, as Joe puts, they built roads to accommodate. They built the infrastructure. So pretty soon, you go fast forward, 50 years, we've got paved roads that the horses don't want to go on anymore. You got to put shoes on them. Now you got cars, the infrastructure, the roads got wider, right? We had parking, we had gas stations, we had all the amenities to start to accommodate vehicles. And I created like a little timeline of history just to show you innovation and how it changes over time. In 1886, when Carl Benz came out with his car, it was an interesting idea, but I wouldn't drive that thing today. No one's going to drive that car on the street. It's in a museum. But over 137 years, we had things like the electronic ignition. That took 25 years for them to put electronic ignition in a car. In 1921, we had cigarette lighters, car radios in 1930. They finally put keys in the car. It took like 60 years to put keys in the car, right? Like, hey, that's a good idea. Let's have a key. You had air conditioning, cruise control, seat belts for 1959, analog brakes. You had airbags in 1988, GPS in 2000. And the point I'm getting at here is every time we made one of these innovations to this technology, that straight horizontal line you see there, the technology is the car, the vehicle. But these are innovations that helped improve that vehicle and make it better. And then they built infrastructure to accommodate these vehicles. And now we have things like Tesla, which, in 2025, we've got pretty much a driverless vehicle that you can go anywhere, not legally yet, but my guess is within the next year or two, you'll be able to just literally fall asleep and let that car drive itself. So why did I give you this example? Because from my perspective, Jay and others that are skeptics out there go, I just don't get it. You have to understand that this entire financial system, not just domestically in the United States, but globally, has been controlled by a few giant parties. And those giant parties have enjoyed almost a monopoly on their financial services. We don't have a say in what goes on with our checking, with our savings, with our insurance, with our healthcare, with our, you name it. We don't have a say in those financial products, right? They control all of it because it's centralized. So what crypto represented initially in 2008 with the white paper by Satoshi Nakamoto on Bitcoin was, let's become our own banks. So if you're Bitcoin, it's being your own bank. That's its purpose, right? To be its own bank. But there's so many other facets to this market. And the reason I started with this example of car innovation is I want you to kind of see that these innovations are spreading out into other markets. So what other markets are we talking about? Well, this is my perspective. This is my viewpoint on it. I believe that if you look at digital assets today, most people think, oh, we're not using digital assets. Yes, we are. And interconnectivity links them together. So we have things like the US dollar. Yeah, the US dollar is digital, right? You have digital assets going around through Venmo and PayPal, but you also have stablecoins. You also have Forex. Currencies are now being done on blockchains. JP Morgan built their own called Onyx, which is a blockchain infrastructure that uses Ethereum. You have things like stock market. NYSE, NASDAQ just got the green light from regulators to build on the blockchain. Okay? They're going to use this technology. It doesn't have to be a specific crypto project, but they're using the blockchain technology, which solidifies the staying power of crypto. Now, could they use Ethereum? Could they use Avalanche? Could they use Solana? Yes, they could use one of these blockchains, or they could come up with their own. I'll get more into that here in just a little bit. You have things like our entire banking system. Look, JP Morgan has been insulting and attacking Bitcoin since day one. Why? Because Bitcoin represents you becoming your own bank. What does JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon run? The largest banking systems in the world. So of course they're threatened, right? If you had a job and you see a new hire come in, brand new, that's gunning for the same position that you have, what are you going to do? You'd be like, oh, they're fantastic. You should hire them. They're really good at what they do. No, you're going to go around and you're spreading rumors like, man, that person's a criminal. They're a thief. They do bad things to children. They're drug. You look at him. Look at his eyes. He's got to be a drug user. You're going to slander that person because it fundamentally threatens who you are. In this case, Bitcoin fundamentally threatens the banking system, not just of the United States, but of the world. And the irony is JP Morgan is currently using blockchain technology for their systems. They're using Avalanche and they're using Ethereum from what I have learned. There may be more than that, but that's what I could dig out. What about things like futures markets? Yes, there's perpetual futures now that you can trade on decentralized exchanges. Why is this good? Because everybody in here trades futures. Yes, they're 1256 contracts. I get a little bit of benefit there, right? Tax benefit. When you trade a futures product, it expires. It has an expiration date. Why? Well, because futures products are designed to speculate on what the price of a commodity or market may be at a certain point in time. But the ulterior motive there is every time they expire, you have to buy a new one, right? They want to sell you ice cubes because every time you make a transaction, the CME or ICE makes money off of you. So, great idea. But crypto makes perpetual futures, where you can essentially just buy the futures contract and you don't have to sell it. You can hold it for indefinitely. Very different, and that's because of technology changing the structure of a market that you guys are familiar with, in this case, futures. What about options? There are now DeFi marketplaces where you can trade options that are outside of the CBOE or other regulated exchanges. You have real estate. There's tokenization of real estate happening right now on the blockchain. You have insurance products, right? There's so many different markets here that are impacted by crypto and digital assets. And I think it's important that we understand that it's not just, oh, crypto's a scam, it's not backed by anything. It is the underlying foundation which will be running these systems. So if you look forward 10 years, all banks, in my opinion, will be connected by a blockchain. It will be called a consortium blockchain. There's 3 types of blockchains. A private blockchain, which one person controls all the rights to write on it. That's pretty much what businesses are today. Number 2 is called a consortium or federated blockchain. In that type of environment, a select group gets to access that blockchain. So in this case, you would have, my guess would be, JP Morgan would probably run it, but you'd have Bank of America, you'd have Citibank, you'd have Bank of America, all connecting to that blockchain. Why? Because the ease for that bank now to move money from one bank to the other, or send funds or assets on an internal blockchain, faster, more transparent, it'd be almost instantaneous. Huge advance for those firms and efficiency. I was gonna look at some slides here just because no problem, Liz. They shut down NFTs, but they didn't shut them down. NFTs are still there. People just realize that the NFT structure as of today is just stupid. It's a joke. NFTs are, there is definitely some valid pieces to them, but right now they are a joke. I mentioned your banking system. You'd have faster transactions, faster settlement times, no holding periods. Like, we have to wait multiple days to get our checks to clear. That's BS. Greater interoperability, lower fees. All of these things would be benefits to you and I. Now, so NFTs are a scam. They are a form. It's tough. I would say that certainly NFTs are scamlicious, meaning there's a potential for opportunity for scams in there big time with NFTs. So I'm not answering Jay's question directly yet, which is how can they be a viable instrument? For Jay, as someone who's a stock investor, you're looking at what are the earnings? What's the product or service that they sell? The challenge with a decentralized entity is there is no one person who controls anything. There is no one gatekeeper that makes the rules for it. I'll use Ethereum, for example. Ethereum is the largest decentralized computer in the world. That gives it its value. It's got massive value because no one person can shut it down. Could the government come in and shut down JP Morgan tomorrow? Simple yes or no. Could the government come in and say, JP Morgan, all operations are ceased. You can't do anything. We're shutting down all your offices. We're shutting down JP Morgan Chase today. Across the country, across the world, you are done. Absolutely, right? Now, that would be crazy because Jamie Dimon is in the pocket of all politicians, including the President of the United States, so it wouldn't happen. But theoretically, it could happen. Could they shut down Ethereum? Could they go out there and say, we're shutting down Ethereum? Anything to do with Ethereum is going to get shut down. Could they do that? You guys tell me. Yeah, of course I know they can do it, Rob. I wanted to get you guys to say it. The answer is no. You cannot shut down Ethereum. There is no central entity. Ethereum is all over the world. So even if a government, no, the government can't shut it down. The government could say you can't use Ethereum in the United States for anything, but you can't shut down Ethereum. Ethereum is on servers all over the world. So theoretically, you'd have to go to every computer that's running the Ethereum network, the node, and shut those off. And there's tens of thousands of them around the world. So even if every government in the world said it'd be illegal, yeah, exactly. Steven says no, but maybe just in the U.S. make it illegal. Yes, that they could do for sure. And they could threaten to freeze your accounts or throw you in prison if you did use Ethereum. The point I'm making is, and this is for Jay, is part of the value. I know you say it has no intrinsic value, which is true. But part of the value is it's an unstoppable record-keeping system that no government or company is going to freeze or shut down. Therein lies its value. When you look at something like the US dollar, we all say, oh, it has value. I go over here and my $1 is worth $1. Yeah, but that purchasing power of this dollar may deteriorate. Actually, not today. We had a nice rally up in the US dollar today, breaking through that trend line that we'll look at here in just a minute, and we've been watching for the last couple of days. But the government can manipulate this as much as they want. They can print to infinity and beyond. Heck, they printed $35 trillion already worth of debt, and what's to say we couldn't be at $100 trillion in no time? So the government can continue to manipulate and print money however they want. With Bitcoin, it's a trick question, but there's 21 million Bitcoin right now. Or sorry, not the 21 million max. There's 20 million in circulation right now, but there will be a maximum of 21 million. What gives Bitcoin its value? Number one, it's decentralized. So you can't shut it down. You can't seize those assets unless they're on an exchange, right? So if you have Bitcoin on Coinbase, that can be seized, it can be frozen, the government can touch that. But if I have Bitcoin on my Nano Ledger over here, no one can touch it. No one can touch that other than me and the person who has my seed phrase. So that's huge, right? In safety and security, knowing that I have ownership. So I've got the decentralized part of Bitcoin. I've got the censorship resistant part of Bitcoin. And I have scarcity. I had that there's only 21 million Bitcoin. And I know that. I can calculate. I can show you exactly how Bitcoin are created. There's 3.125 Bitcoin created every 10 minutes, and that will happen until 2028, at which time that number gets cut in half. And it gets cut half in every 4 years. Boom, 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 boom. And because we have such a decentralized network, all the copy of all the transactions of Bitcoin is completely secure. You're not going to put fraudulent transactions in. It's not going to be a fake transaction. There will be no illegal transactions on Bitcoin because the network will prevent that from happening. So here's where we get our value. It's scarcity, it's safety, it's security, and it's out of the reach of governments. Now, Steven says Bitcoin, like gold, limited supply. Very true, but could you tell me how much gold is left on the earth? No one can. No one can, right? We know it's limited. There's only so much that can be extracted, but we don't know how much. They might find an ore of gold that is the largest that's ever been found in mankind, and all of a sudden, supply of gold doubles. Well, what's going to happen to the price of gold? Going to plummet. What happens if Elon Musk launches a rocket to Mars, and on the way, he passes this big, shiny gold nugget in space that's the size of Earth? And it's a gold nugget the size of Earth. I'm making some stuff up here, guys. I know. Let's not make it the size of Earth. But let's say it's the size of Delaware. That would be more gold than exists on Earth today. And if that were to happen, the supply of gold would increase. The price of gold would plummet. Absolutely plummet. With Bitcoin, it's 21 million. Period. There won't be any more. So part of the reason we see Bitcoin continue to rally is it's definitive, exact to the number how many there will be. So you have defined scarcity and you know exactly how it's going to be released. That also gives it its value. Then he'll be going out there and own it. Yeah, I'm sure he'll plant that. He'll drill a hole in it and plant a flag on his gold ore ball in space. So we have these systems today that are just barely using these blockchains. Amazon is using Avalanche, and other services are using different blockchains, which is why I think it's so important for you and I to look out through the ecosystem and say, okay, if the government says they want to release all of their reports on a blockchain, I'm grabbing my pen and I'm waiting for them to say which one. If they say Ethereum, I'm going to buy some more ETH. If they say Solana, I'm going to buy Solana. Why? Because that puts the government stamp of approval on those major blockchains. And the government doesn't want to recreate the wheel, try to make their own blockchain. They'll use something. They'll use some product out there. What about the risk of Bitcoin via quantum breakthroughs? That scares me a bit. Not concerned at all. Not even remotely close. So basically, if you look at the security, the encryption of Bitcoin, it's 2 to the 256 power is the encryption mechanism, right? It's called SHA-256. Ultimately, if we get quantum computers, which are years away from getting anywhere even close, they'll just jump it from SHA-256 to SHA-512. Hopefully guys don't start, oh, wow, I'm on delays here. Sorry for that. I don't know why it's on this. That's on a really slow internet here. We'll see if that gets fixed. So Dakota, I'm not worried about it. They'll just bump up the encryption. And a lot of them are doing quantum proofing on the blockchain. Ethereum right now is building out technology to make it quantum proof. So not worried about that at all. Andre says, is Bitcoin deflationary? Here's another driver of price. So Jay wants to know what gives it its value. Scarcity, right? Scarcity gives it one component of its value. Also, people lose their private keys. So when I say there's going to be 21 million total, yes, that's what will exist in all of time. However, it will not be the amount that's in circulation, because every day people are losing their private keys, losing their Bitcoin, forgetting their wallets or whatever, and that number is dropping and dropping. Right now, expectations are that 6 million Bitcoin have been lost. So you want to talk about scarcity? Yes, there's 21 million, but if I subtract 6 million from that, that means 15 million. If I drop supply that much and demand continues to increase as it has, the price of Bitcoin will go up. And Jay's probably thinking, well, why would you buy Bitcoin? It has no fundamentals. What's its PE ratio? What's its product? Its product is safety, security, decentralization, and the ability for you to access any digital market, send money anywhere around the world to anybody without anyone saying anything about it, right? If I wanted to send $1 trillion to Naum, the government's not going to stop that transaction. Don't worry, Naum, I'm not going to send you $1 trillion. I know you're worried. You're freaked out about that one. But that is with Bitcoin. Advance to other technologies, right? So Bitcoin is just a money system that sends back and forth. If we look at things like Ethereum is what enables all of these: insurance, banking, US dollar, futures, Forex, options. These are programmable blockchains. These asset classes can be plugged into a blockchain. And what's interesting, I've mentioned this before in the program, one of the reasons I'm so bullish on Ethereum is we're seeing companies like Coinbase, like Robinhood, like others are plugging into Ethereum blockchain to do all their business. To me, that's huge, right? Very, very, very big news when these industries, which are $1 trillion industries, are saying we're going to use a blockchain and we're using Ethereum. Okay, that's fantastic. So if we're here today with this digital assets, just barely touching these markets, I think within a few years, a lot of these businesses will be more entwined with digital assets. And remember, when you have the digital ecosystem, as long as it's done on the same blockchain, you have interoperability between all of them. So the real estate companies could talk to the futures exchanges. The futures exchanges could talk to the insurance companies. The insurance companies could talk to the equity markets because they'd be on the same blockchain. If they don't build on the same blockchain, then there's some challenges there. And in 10 years, I think every single piece of this, every single piece we've just talked about is living on digital ecosystem rails. Will it be Ethereum or Cardano? I don't know. I do not know that. But what we're witnessing, and this is why I wanted to present it this way, Jay, we're witnessing the evolution of financial markets. We're witnessing the infrastructure. You're used to thinking about, a company changing this little piece here. This is the fundamental changing how all information is sent between all of these firms. It's speeding it up, making it more transparent, making it more efficient. Therein lies the value. And because it's decentralized, we don't get reporting because Ethereum's not earning anything. There's no earning for Ethereum. Who earns money with Ethereum is called the validators. The validators are the ones that just make sure all the transactions are legitimate and verify things, and they get rewarded with 2 Ethereum every 15 seconds. Great business. But I take it one step further. And this is where I get excited for all of us that are in crypto. When we look at the interconnectivity, all of these systems will be digital and they'll be able to be interoperable. However, I believe that you're going to start to see this. New industries and market segments popping up that give us opportunity within this digital world, either as long-term investments, short-term traders, speculators, whatever. All those little dots could be new opportunities, new things to trade, new markets. And that's one of the main reasons I love crypto is I know that if I am well-versed in how this technology functions and what the pros and cons, how to protect myself, etc., that ultimately I will be in a position financially to take advantage of all of those from a crypto perspective, investment perspective. Now, look, it can impact everything. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I just want you to think outside the box. You have things like voting or streaming media, digital storage, video rendering, insurance, supply chain, metaverse. The list goes on and on and on. My favorite one here is real world assets, or RWA. Real world assets essentially is putting everything on the blockchain. A house, an apartment building, a car, an airplane, my title to my you name it. Anything that represents ownership can be tokenized, and that could bring us back to NFTs. So I'm definitely not directly answering that question from Jay, right? It's kind of a not beating around the bush answer, but it certainly is addressing some of it. And I'll go back to the question just to hear. He says, what gives you confidence that it holds genuine long-term value beyond more speculation? Adoption. For me, it's really about adoption. more people are starting to use it. You're starting to see governments accept it. You're starting to see governments roll over it, like the US, and say, we are going to be building a strategic Bitcoin reserve and have a digital asset portfolio. Not that it means that the crypto is going to stay around forever, but it does put an extra little stamp of confidence that there's some validity to those industries. Now, out of those 2,247 projects I mentioned earlier, some of those are going to be businesses that are like Ripple, right? Ripple is run by a very select group. It's a consortium blockchain. And Ripple is a business. They're for profit. They've got books. They've got numbers. Ripple could potentially go public and be on the stock exchange. And you will get some companies that do go public and are on a stock exchange. But many of these crypto projects, the vast majority, are decentralized. There is no owner. Right? The owner has maybe a bunch of coins or tokens, but they've removed themselves from day-to-day operations because once you set up the code and let this machine run, you don't need to intervene with it. Right? The network around the world is what keeps that network running. So it's hard to understand, right? Especially when you ask great questions like, traders who focus on fundamentals. There aren't any, right? You have to look at the adoption and who's using these specific technologies. It has no balance sheet, correct? What you're looking at is just simply record-keeping systems that are either keeping track of transactions, of items, of value. They could even be set up to run standalone businesses. There's no earnings. That's correct. There's no earnings for the business, but there's earnings for the people who participate in the business, known as miners or validators. So you put here no real growth drivers other than speculation and hype. No, I would say the growth driver is adoption. We're dealing with a technology that's so nascent, so new, most people just don't understand it. Again, I've had friends who, well, I thought they were friends, who won't talk to me anymore on social media because they think I'm off my rocker because I am pro-crypto. It's like, look, it's just my opinion. If you don't like crypto, stay out of it. I don't care. It's fine with me. If you're afraid of it, if you think it's a scam, go away. I mean, no, not go away, but, just leave it alone. 29% of you said you thought it was a scam. Fine. And I would argue that over the long haul, you're going to see some of those that I've mentioned, right? And we've got a bunch of those. Let's say out of those 22.4 million, a lot of the stuff's going to disappear. By the end of the year, we'll probably have the Clarity Act. Maybe it gets voted through early next year, but we'll have an idea of what it looks like. A lot of that 22 million is going to disappear. When people wake up and realize how to analyze projects, how to look at it and see, is this thing legitimate? Is it delivered? Is it doing anything of value? Then those ones will stay. Your meme coins, your jokes, your shit coins, what they call them, you're looking at things like Pepe coin and Shiba Inu. I mean, these have billion-dollar market caps. It's just stupidity driving the price of them. There's no value to them. Trump coin, Libra coin, Melania coin, those are all pump and dump scams, unfortunately. And the bag holders, the people who bought it because they were following the specific individual or name or whatever, they're going to be left holding the bag. So, most people are going to lose money in crypto because they're chasing hype. They're chasing the pump and dump. They're chasing the big gainers. The ones who will make money are the ones who are analyzing and saying, okay, where does Ethereum go from here? What's their value? Where does Solana or Cardano or Avalanche? These are valid projects who have teams, who have transactions going on their blockchain. That will be where the value comes from. And over the course of time, it's my belief, again, not financial advice, but it's my belief that we're going to see the entire financial system running on these rails. The entire system. Because if they don't join the system, they'll be archaic and won't be able to play with all the other big boys, which is why I've been emphasizing Ethereum. So I spent 30 minutes on this, and it's probably too long. 34 minutes. Sorry about all that time. But Jay, I hope I gave you a thorough perspective on it. Statistically, mathematically, crypto is a scam. Only because most of the projects out there are absolute garbage. I have 5 that I've created myself. I wouldn't call those scams because I'm not selling to anybody. They will never see the light of day. I did it just to create a cryptocurrency project and see what it was like. But yeah, people are scammers out there. But the reality is there's a lot of really good stuff. There's a lot of really good projects that are trying to change the world in which we live in and make it a better place for other people and us. And I think that's where the value comes. So Jay, thank you very much for that question. I appreciate it. Let's dive into other topics here before I get hate mail for spending a whole show talking about this topic. Those numbers is why a majority think it's exactly, technician, and that's why I brought it up. Well, and now, to be fair, to be honest, that's my perspective. There are many people who will look at what I said here in this last 34 minutes and go, this guy's an idiot. But Merlin who? He's a nobody. Don't listen to this guy. He's a moron. And that's fine. Call me whatever you want, right? I've got my money where I think it's going to grow, and I may be wrong, but I have diversification to help me out with that crypto space. That's right, Chio. Hit that like button. If you're brand new, hit subscribe as well. All right, so let's go back to our markets here today. Clearly not a good day for crypto. We had Bitcoin take a bit of a hit today, still dropping 1.97%. But notice where it fell to. We drew that little yellow box yesterday on the Bitcoin futures. The low end of that box is 120,405. And today, our low price for Bitcoin, 120,370. So we just barely breached it and then bounced back up. Let's hope this holds. If it doesn't, man. If this doesn't hold, we're probably going to see that 115, 114 mark on Bitcoin. And I don't want to see that. That would not be good. But it's starting to feel that way. It does feel a little bit weak here. Market says the 4 hour. We want to bring up a 4 hour time frame for that one. Still not looking good, right? It looks like a descending triangle building, and that does not make me very happy. Buy more. No, I'm good. I'm good for now. I'm good for now. Not a good day for markets either. Well, it depends on what you're looking at. I'll start at the bottom. Well, the numbers have changed, but Bitcoin was one of the worst performers at 1.97. Let's go back to the daily, just see the bigger picture here. But bam, we're right into demand. We'll see if that holds. Gold. We've been talking about how this is just getting way too long in the tooth, and today we had a pretty nice reversal on gold, down 2.41%. But here's what's noteworthy. Look at the volume on the futures today. Okay, you had a pretty high spike here on gold futures. I'm curious. It's not that high. I mean, if I zoom out, it's one of the higher spikes that we've seen. Actually, it might be the highest spike on the screen. It is the highest spike on the screen going back a couple of years. So there definitely was some panic in gold today. The question is, does this momentum carry it lower? Do we see it fall even more than this off of the news that, gold was down? Look, it's only 2.4%. But this is definitely due for a pullback. Absolutely due for a pullback on gold, and about time. Crude oil. This is an interesting one because crude oil, you've got these peace talks that Trump is holding, and apparently, it's working. I don't believe that you'll get peace over there in the Middle East. I just don't see it happening. But for right now, the talk track is that it is happening, and we're peaceful in Israel or peaceful in Iran. We'll all be okay. Okay, if that happens, that removes the risk trade of crude oil, right? There's always that risk that they'll start attacking vessels coming in from the Middle East and oil tankers and all that stuff. So you might see more downside movement here. If we do in fact have peace, then we would probably challenge in lower end of this band, which is $59.74 for the crude oil futures right now. And based off the trend, I think that's probably going to happen. Margaret says the innocent deserve peace. Absolutely. 100%. Absolutely. And I wish we could give it to them. Unfortunately, when you have countries with radicals, which we have here in the United States as well, so let's not point the finger at Israel or Iran or whatever country you want to point them at, there's always radicals, right? There's always radicals, and unfortunately, those radicals are the ones that ruin it for everybody else. And most people just want to live in peace and get along, and yeah, they might not like this person or that party, but they're not going to do anything aggressive. And unfortunately, we have a situation where, some very good, innocent human beings are oppressed or killed or just have their lives ruined because of some radical that ruined everything. It's just terrible. I know, Jerry. That's a sad reality. It really is. There is no money in peace, Jerry says. Yeah, you're right. All right, so that was crude oil down 1.66% as we speak now, looking pretty weak. Russell 2000, people were kind of, I got some messages today from people asking me if this was the market rolling over. We get a big crash. I go, no, look at the Russell. Is that rolling over? That looks like it's still trending fine. It was down 0.65. It was one of the biggest losers for the equity indexes today, but not a big deal at all. I mean, it's fine. S&P 500, same picture. We had a big update yesterday to all-time highs. We made a new intraday all-time high today and then sold off a little bit. But the trend is your friend till the bend at the end, so don't fret this stuff. NASDAQ, same picture, right? All-time high set again for the NASDAQ today. Closed at 25,289, but down 0.16, right? So there we go. The 10-year yield jumped today. Not much, but 4.14 on the 10-year yield was up about a half a percentage point. But this was the bigger story is the dollar index, right? The dollar index, the Dixie, ripped today. I had that trend line drawn as kind of a subtle, maybe this would be a supply zone or a resistance point for price. Nope, we knifed right through it. So based off that, it looks like we're going to be coming right back up to these right around 100 even would be my guess, which is 60 cents away from current price. My guess is you're probably going to get there in a couple of days. That thing's moving very fast right now. Yeah, it was the strongest day. Kind of weird, Rob, right? You're like, wait, the dollar was the strongest thing today? And, I would have thought that with this move that's happening in the dollar, it actually would have caused the equity markets to roll over more. If we see this dollar break 100 and we see it continue to rally, I would really hope that you guys put some defensive trades on, right? If you're long the markets, even though the S&P looks fantastic, that rising dollar is going to start to put pressure on this. And if that trend does continue up in the dollar, then you should see these equity markets start to take a breather, take a little bit of a sell-off. So be careful there. You never know which way it's going to go, but when that dollar index surges like that, generally the equity markets are dipping down. And it's weird, if you look at let's go the last, what do we got, 10 days here? The last 16 days, 16 trading days, the dollar index is up 3.31%. And in the last 16 trading days, let me just get my exact number here, 16 trading days, the equity markets are up 2.16%. These should be the opposite. So something's going to break here. Something's going to break. And as you've heard me say many times over the past couple of weeks, I feel like the dollar is the one that was going to break because, again, Scott Bessent, Trump, and many other elected officials want a weaker dollar. But markets operate off supply and demand, not what the president wishes or the secretary of the treasury wishes. How about gold's percentage? Well, that one's phenomenal. Let's go to where we are today. We'll adjust, but in the last 16 days, there we go. I went the wrong way. 1 second. Let me readjust these numbers. Okay, gold in the last 16 trading sessions since no one wants to, up 7.43%, and that's including today's sell-off of 3% or 2.4%. If you go to its peak, it was up 10.08% in 14 trading sessions. Phenomenal move in gold. But it's all things going to come to an end. That thing was definitely due for a pullback here. Dollar is celebrating no economic data due to the shutdown. Maybe, Andres. And that's why I tried to stress this yesterday. It makes me a little bit nervous. And we're in day 9, day 10 of the shutdown. The longer this goes on, the more we skip data. We're supposed to have the unemployment number, which is supposed to be released last week, is supposed to be released this Friday. The longer we go out with uncertainty, the more volatile you're going to get the market reaction to when we get the data. So it's supposed to be this Friday for unemployment. There's a bunch, next Friday for unemployment. I think it's supposed to be this Friday, and then if it doesn't happen, because probably not going to have in time for tomorrow, it'll be pushed out to next Friday. Let's see, market says, so is it more likely that Bitcoin will replace a dollar worldwide, or is it more likely that blockchain technology will make a significant crypto much more used and more valuable? Yeah, I don't think the dollar is going to replace, or Bitcoin's going to replace a dollar. I just don't see a government allowing that to happen. Remember, the power of the government is the fact that we can manipulate money out of thin air. So they won't want to lose that power of the dollar. They'll probably create a USDC. My guess is within a few years, we'll have a dollar central bank digital currency. That's also good because that will be in digital world. That will probably be on someone's blockchain, and that creates more adoption for crypto and digital assets. So for me, Margaret, the second part is what drives the value, and that is blockchain technology, the adoption of different blockchains, and utility of those blockchains going forward. It's all about adoption. Why the pump and dump in housing last 4 days? Toll Brothers, KB Homes, probably, yeah. I'm not sure. I looked at that too. I don't. If you look at, let's just look at Toll Brothers. Right, you've had a pretty big sell-off over the past couple of days. Not exactly sure why that is. Obviously the first part of the signal weakness here on Toll Brothers was this nice big sell-off we had from early September to late September, but now just following through here in October and even more in the after-hour session. If you look at IYR, which is a real estate ETF, you got a similar picture, but it doesn't feel like it's in dire straits yet. Let's go KB Homes. I'm not sure what caused that one. And maybe the expectations of rates going higher. Today, the 30-year bond had a pretty significant jump. Let's see if I can bring that one up for you guys. I don't have the yield on the 30-year bond here, but I do have, bear with me. Here's the 30-year. The yield on the 30-year jumped 0.3%. It's at 4.7. And as those longer-term maturities continue to rise, that obviously is going to put pressure on housing market. And I personally think the housing market's a little bit overdone. I think we're just a little bit too heated up here for housing. But that's just my own 2 cents. Mariam says over leverage, sure. Gold bounce up from bear trap below. All right, let me see here. What time we got? All right, I got to wrap up. I got too many things to do here, and I'm falling behind, folks. I'm falling behind. I got a 3:30 meeting as well. So let's go into your economic calendar for mañana. Again, all of this stuff is subject to what the government is going to release. So as you can see here, we have the University of Michigan consumer sentiment numbers coming out. That's the expectation. And of course, that is the University of Michigan, so that will not be impacted. Other than that, not a lot of big stuff here unless you're looking at Canada, which they have their unemployment rate. And on the earnings front, let's go out to the six companies reporting earnings tomorrow, and none of them are that important. The good news for us all is there is some information coming out next week that will not be manipulated. It's not going to be modified by the government or frozen because of a shutdown, and that's earnings. And we have massive earnings coming out next week in the financial space. Very, very big for the financial markets and banking sector in particular. So that will do it for me for today. I think, someone asked about the Intel's new chip. Look, Intel just came out with their new chip. What's the 18A process? And everyone's all super excited about it. They're trying to get more partnerships with different people and sell these chips. And it gives them the competition in the AI space. But does it compete with NVIDIA? I don't believe it does. Oh, man. Look at that rally. Beautiful. It was down. Actually, it was up today, 0.99. I thought it was actually down today. I looked at this one earlier and it was down. Damn right. Exactly. No, I got work to do, bud. I have things that pay. I've got things that pay me. But Intel, I'm interested to see what the results reviews are for this new chip by Intel. They're talking mass production next year. Great. Does it give them a foothold in that AI space? It sounds like this chip is designed for that, but does it come near the Blackwell performance or what AMD is putting out there? That I don't know. I need to do the best chipset. Yeah. NVIDIA chips might be too expensive. That could be, right? But why, Margaret? NVIDIA knows that they had a monopoly on the spot, so they could charge whatever they wanted. Now as AMD's in there, you got NVIDIA, Intel, and some others. Maybe they start to drop their prices a little bit. But remember, they're still sold out. They're packed. Everyone wants NVIDIA's product, so I don't think it's gonna impact NVIDIA much. All right, that's going to do it for me, everybody. I got to run. Hope you guys have a fantastic remainder of your day. It's Friday tomorrow, so if you guys would like something, I'm switching up. I'm going to actually probably be drinking tequila. I know. I'll explain why on tomorrow's show. I'm switching from whiskeys to tequilas just because of hangovers and health benefits, and of course, as I'm getting more healthy and stronger. Got to think about that type of stuff. So tomorrow's show, if you have questions, things you want me to discuss, let me know. You can email me at TraderMerlin@gmail.com. Next week's schedule, I will definitely not be doing a Thursday or Friday show. I'm pretty sure I will be doing a Wednesday show. I'll tell you right now. My flight to Florida is in the evening, so I'm pretty sure my flight is at 7:30. Yeah, so I'll be doing a show Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So you got a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday show is what we'll be doing, and I will I'll post on my YouTube or my TraderMerlin.com page to schedule, just so you guys can see that there. All right, thank you guys so much. Have a fantastic remainder of your day. I will see you mañana for a nice glass of something. Might be whiskey, might be tequila. We shall see. Take care, everybody.